Hello, boys and girls. I am in our school's library, a nice quiet spot, so I can bring to you Chapter 2 of Mr. Popper's Penguins. Today, you saw the reveal of the book, the little video we made, and you should have read Chapter 1 in class with your teachers. So we'll move on to Chapter 2. I have a nice little handy bookmark where you guys can see what to read each night. So tonight, even though it's Friday, you have 3 days to read one chapter, and I'm pretty excited to continue reading on. We'll read Chapter 2, and I actually have a trivia question that I'll ask you guys at the end, and we'll ask it on Monday, and you can see if you know it for a chance for some door prizes. Always one of my favorites. All right, Chapter 2, The Voice in the Air. Follow along with me. That evening, when the little Poppers had been put to bed, Mr. and Mrs. Popper settled down for a long, quiet evening. The neat living room at 432 Proudfoot Avenue was much like all the other living rooms in Stillwater, except that the walls were hung with pictures from the National Geographic magazine. Mrs. Popper picked up her mendings while Mr. Popper collected his pipe, his globe, and his book, and his globe. From time to time, Mrs. Popper sighed a little as she thought about the long winter ahead. Would there really be enough beans to last, she wondered. Mr. Popper was not worried, however. As he put on his spectacles, he was quite pleased at the prospect of a whole winter of reading travel books, with no work to interrupt him. He set his little globe beside him, and he began to read. "What are you reading?" asked Mrs. Popper. "I am reading a book called Antarctic Adventures. It is very interesting. It tells about all the different people who have gone to the South Pole and what they have found there." "Don't you ever get tired of reading about the South Pole?" "No, I don't. Of course, I would much rather go there than read about it, but reading is the next best thing." "I think it must be very boring down there," said Mrs. Popper. "It sounds very dull and cold with all the ice and snow." "Oh, no," answered Mr. Popper. "You wouldn't think it was dull if you had gone with me to see the movies of the Drake expedition at the Bijou last year." "Well, I didn't, and I don't think any of us will have any money for movies now," answered Mrs. Popper, a little sharply. She was not at all a disagreeable woman, but sometimes she got rather cross when she was worried about money. "If you had gone, my love," went on Mr. Popper, "you would have seen how beautiful the Antarctic is. But I think the nicest part of all is the penguins. No wonder all the men of the expedition had such a good time playing with them. They're the funniest birds in the world. They don't fly like other birds. They walk erect like little men. When they get tired of walking, they just lie down on their stomachs and slide. Very, very nice to have one for a pet." "Pets," said Mrs. Popper. "First it's Bill wanting a dog, and then Janie begging for a kitten. Now you and the penguins. I don't have any pets around. They make too much dirt in the house, and I have enough work now trying to keep this place tidy, to say nothing of what it costs to feed a pet. Anyway, we have the bowl of goldfish." "Penguins are very intelligent," continued Mr. Popper. "Listen to this, Mama. It's here. It says it here that when they want to catch some shrimp, they all crowd around onto the edge of an ice bank. Only they don't jump in because a sea leopard might be waiting to eat the penguins. So they crowd and they push until they manage to just shove one penguin off to see if it's safe. I mean, if he doesn't get eaten up, the rest of them know it's safe for them to all jump in." Boys and girls, lesson learned. It's not always smart to be first in line. "Dear me," said Mrs. Popper in a shocked tone, "they sound to me like pretty heathen birds." "It's a queer thing," said Mr. Popper, "that all the polar bears live in the North Pole and all the penguins at the South Pole. I should think the penguins would like the North Pole too if they only knew how to get there." At 10 o'clock, Mrs. Popper yawned and laid down her mending. "Well, you can go on reading about those heathen birds, but I'm going to bed. Tomorrow is Thursday, September 30th, and I have to go to the first meeting of the Ladies' Aid and Missionary Society." "September 30th?" said Mr. Popper in an excited tone. "You don't mean that tonight is Wednesday, September 29th? "Why, yes, I suppose it is. But what of it?" Mr. Popper put down his book of Antarctic Adventures and moved hastily to the radio. "What of it?" he repeated, pushing the switch. "Why, this is the night that the Drake Antarctic Expedition is going to start broadcasting." "That's nothing," said Mrs. Popper. "Just a lot of men at the bottom of the world saying, 'Hello, Mama, hello, Papa.'" "Shh," commanded Mr. Popper, laying his ear close to the radio. There was a buzz, and then suddenly from the South Pole, a faint voice floated out into the Poppers' living room. "This is the Admiral Drake speaking. Hello, Mama. Hello, Papa. Hello, Mr. Popper." "Gracious goodness," exclaimed Mrs. Popper. "Did he say Papa or Popper?" "Hello, Mr. Popper up there in Stillwater. Thanks for your nice letters about the pictures of our last expedition. Watch for an answer, but not for a letter. By letter. Mr. Popper, watch for a surprise. Signing off, signing off." "You wrote to Admiral Drake?" "Yes, I did," Mr. Popper admitted. "I wrote and told him how funny I thought penguins were." "Well, I never," said Mrs. Popper, very much impressed. Mr. Popper picked up his little globe and found the Antarctic, and to think he spoke to me all the way from there. And he even mentioned my name. Mama, what do you suppose he means by a surprise?" "I haven't any idea," answered Mrs. Popper. "But I'm going to bed. I don't want to be late for the Ladies' Aid and Missionary Society meeting tomorrow." That ends chapter 2. Can you believe that? What if you were listening to the radio and the radio or the person on the radio said your name? I'd be surprised too. And that he said a surprise was coming his way. Well, here's your trivia question for chapter 2. And I'll repeat this on the announcements on Monday. The trivia question is, what happened during the radio show that pleased and surprised Mr. Popper? Think about that. Boys and girls, I hope you have a great weekend. I look forward to continuing our story with you.